My wife always ties a red scarf every morning before serving me food. I should have known something was wrong the day I married Amara, but love, as they say, makes fools of us all. My name is David Okonkwo, and I'm a successful architect in Lagos. At 35, I had everything a man could want: a thriving business, a beautiful home in Lekki, and respect in my community. What I didn't have was a wife, and in my culture, that made me incomplete in the eyes of many. That's when I met Amara. She was 27, stunningly beautiful with skin like polished mahogany and eyes that seemed to hold ancient secrets. We met at my cousin's wedding, and I was captivated immediately. She was different from other women I'd dated, quieter, more reserved, but with an intelligence that shone through every conversation. We courted for 8 months before I proposed. My mother had reservations. "There's something about that girl," she'd say, shaking her head. "I can't put my finger on it, but something isn't right." I dismissed her concerns as typical mother-in-law anxiety. How wrong I was. If you're enjoying this story, please like and subscribe for more incredible tales. The wedding was beautiful, a grand affair that merged both our families. Amara wore white, as was customary, and looked like an angel descending from heaven. When she said, "I do," I thought I was the luckiest man alive. The strange behavior started on our first morning as husband and wife. I woke up around 6 a.m., reaching for Amara, but she wasn't in bed. I could hear movement in the kitchen, the clinking of pots and pans. The aroma of fresh pepper soup wafted through our bedroom door, making my stomach growl. I got up, stretched, and headed toward the kitchen to surprise my new bride with a morning embrace. But as I approached the doorway, I froze. Amara stood at the stove, her back to me, tying a bright red scarf around her head. But it wasn't just any scarf. It was elaborate, wrapped in a specific pattern that seemed ritualistic. And she was whispering something, words I couldn't quite make out as her fingers worked the fabric. "Good morning, my love," I said, stepping into the kitchen. She jumped, startled, her hands flying to the scarf. For just a moment, I saw something flash across her face. Was it fear, anger? But it disappeared so quickly I thought I'd imagined it. "David, you scared me," she laughed, but the laugh sounded forced. "I was just making you breakfast. Go back to bed. I'll bring it to you." "I can eat here with you," I said, moving toward the table. "No!" The word came out sharp, almost panicked. She softened immediately. "I mean, it's our first morning as husband and wife. I want to serve you properly, in bed. Please let me do this." I found her insistence odd but charming. I returned to the bedroom, and 15 minutes later, she appeared with a tray of food: pepper soup, fresh bread, and fruit. The red scarf was still on her head. "You look beautiful in red," I commented. She touched the scarf absently. "Thank you. It was my grandmother's. I wear it when I cook. It brings good luck." That seemed reasonable enough. I ate the breakfast, it was delicious, and thought nothing more of it. But the next morning, the same thing happened, and the morning after that, and the morning after that. Every single morning, without fail, Amara would wake before me, tie that red scarf around her head, and prepare breakfast. She would whisper those same inaudible words while tying it, and she would never, ever let me see her cook without it. At first, I found it endearing, a quirky tradition, but as weeks turned into months, it began to feel unsettling. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The mystery deepens. 3 months into our marriage, I decided to wake up earlier than usual. I wanted to surprise Amara, maybe help her with breakfast, show her that marriage was a partnership. I set my alarm for 4:30 a.m. and silenced it quickly so as not to wake her. But when I reached across the bed, she was already gone. At 4:30 in the morning? That was unusual. I got up quietly and crept toward the kitchen. The apartment was dark except for a dim light coming from under the kitchen door. I could hear Amara's voice, but she wasn't whispering this time. She was chanting. The words were in a language I didn't recognize. Not Igbo, not Yoruba, not any Nigerian language I knew. The rhythm was hypnotic, almost melodic, but there was something dark about it that made the hairs on my neck stand up. I pressed my ear to the door. The chanting stopped abruptly. "I know you're there, David." My blood ran cold. How could she have known? I pushed open the door, trying to appear casual. "I woke up and you weren't there. I got worried. Amara stood by the stove, the red scarf already tied around her head, her eyes fixed on me with an intensity I'd never seen before. I told you, I like to prepare your meals myself. With the scarf, it's important. It's 4:30 in the morning, Amara. What's going on? Nothing is going on. I couldn't sleep, so I decided to start breakfast early. Her voice was calm, but her knuckles were white as she gripped the wooden spoon. Please, David, go back to bed. What were you saying? That chanting? It was a prayer, she interrupted. My grandmother taught me to pray while I cook. It blesses the food. In what language? Her eyes narrowed slightly. It's an old dialect from my village. You wouldn't understand it. I wanted to push further, but something in her expression warned me not to. I nodded and returned to the bedroom, but I didn't sleep. I couldn't shake the feeling that my wife was hiding something significant from me. That day at work, I couldn't concentrate. I kept seeing Amara's face, hearing that strange chanting. During lunch, I called my best friend, Chidi, and told him everything. Guy, maybe she's just really traditional, Chidi suggested. Some women are very particular about their cooking rituals. At 4:30 in the morning, chanting in a language I've never heard? Have you tried asking her family about it? I hadn't. In fact, I realized I knew very little about Amara's family. I'd met her parents once before the wedding. They seemed normal enough, but they lived in a remote village and hadn't attended many of our pre-wedding events. Amara always had excuses for why they couldn't make it. Like and subscribe to see what David discovers next. That evening, I tried a different approach. Amara, tell me about your grandmother, the one who gave you the scarf. She was setting the dinner table and paused mid-motion. What do you want to know? Anything. You've mentioned her a few times, but I realize I don't know much about her. Amara sat down slowly, her fingers tracing the pattern on the tablecloth. She was a powerful woman in our village, a healer. People came from all over to see her. A healer? Like a doctor? More like a traditional medicine woman. She knew herbs, roots, ancient remedies. She could cure illnesses that modern medicine couldn't touch. And she taught you these things? Amara's eyes met mine. Some of them. She said I had the gift. Like her. That's why she gave me the scarf before she died. It's not just fabric, David. It's special. Special how? She stood up abruptly. The food is getting cold. Let's eat. And just like that, the conversation was over. But I couldn't let it go. Over the next few weeks, I started paying closer attention. I noticed that Amara wore the scarf only when preparing my food, never hers. I noticed that she always locked the kitchen door now when she cooked. I noticed that on the rare occasions when we ate out or ordered food, she seemed anxious, almost agitated until we were home again and she could cook for me the next morning. And I noticed something else. I was tired, constantly exhausted. I'd wake up feeling drained, struggle through work, come home and collapse. The doctor said my blood work was fine, that I was probably just stressed from the new marriage and work demands. But I knew it was more than that. One Saturday morning, I pretended to be asleep when Amara got up. I watched through barely open eyes as she slipped out of bed at 5 a.m. I waited 5 minutes, then followed her. The kitchen door was closed, but not locked. I could hear her voice again, that same strange chanting, but this time I'd come prepared. I pulled out my phone and started recording. I stood outside that door for 20 minutes, recording every word. The chanting rose and fell in waves, sometimes urgent, sometimes melodic. And then I heard something that made my blood freeze. She said my name, not just once, but over and over, woven into the chanting. David, David, David. Combined with words I couldn't understand, I burst through the door. Amara spun around, the red scarf on her head, a knife in one hand and a small clay pot in the other. On the counter was a bowl filled with something dark and viscous, and next to it were items I couldn't identify. Roots, bones, what looked like dried herbs. What is that? I demanded, pointing at the bowl. David, you don't understand. What is in that bowl, Amara? She set down the knife slowly. It's for your protection. My protection? From what? From everything. From illness, from enemies, from failure. I do this because I love you. I looked at the strange mixture, at the bones and roots, at the red scarf on her head, And suddenly, everything clicked into place. You're putting something in my food. Not something harmful, never harmful. It's protection, David. Blessings. Good fortune. Did I ask for this? Did I consent to whatever this is? Please like and subscribe. You won't believe what happens next. Tears streamed down Amara's face. You don't understand our ways. My grandmother warned me that modern men wouldn't understand. But she also told me that to keep a husband strong and faithful, to protect him from the evil eye, I had to do this. Every morning, with the scarf that holds her power. This is juju, I said, my voice shaking. You've been putting juju in my food. It's not juju, it's traditional medicine, protection. Without my knowledge, without my permission? I grabbed my phone from my pocket. I recorded you. The chanting, everything. Her face went pale. You can't tell anyone. Please, David, you don't know what you're dealing with. Then explain it to me. Explain all of it. And finally, she did. Amara told me about her grandmother, a woman feared and revered in equal measure in their village. She'd been what some called a witch, what others called a wise woman. She'd had the power to heal and to harm, to bless and to curse. When Amara was 7, her grandmother had identified her as the inheritor of these gifts. She'd trained Amara in secret, teaching her the old ways, the ancient words, the rituals that had been passed down through generations of women in their family. The red scarf was her grandmother's tool of power. It had been blessed, consecrated, infused with spiritual energy through decades of use. Wearing it while preparing food allowed Amara to channel that power, to infuse the meals with protection and blessings. But you've been feeling tired, she admitted, fresh tears flowing. I know. It's because I've been trying too hard, putting too much power into the food. I was afraid of losing you, afraid that you'd find someone else, afraid that the city would corrupt you, so I increased the potency of the protection. You've been draining me. Not intentionally. I didn't realize it was happening until a few weeks ago. I've been trying to reduce it, to find the right balance, but nothing, I interrupted. This ends now. No more. No more of whatever this is. No more secrets. Amara fell to her knees. If I stop, you'll be vulnerable. There are people who envy you, David. People who want what you have. Without protection, they could destroy you. I'll take my chances. You don't understand what you're saying. Then help me understand. Take off the scarf. Make breakfast like a normal person. Let me see you do it without all of this witchcraft. She looked up at me, her face a mask of terror. I can't. Why not? Because without the scarf, without the rituals, I don't know who I am. That confession hung in the air between us. In that moment, I saw my wife not as the woman I'd married, but as a stranger. Someone caught between two worlds, bound by traditions I couldn't comprehend, carrying powers I didn't believe in but couldn't deny. I left the kitchen and called my mother. She arrived within the hour, along with my father and 2 uncles. When I explained what I'd discovered, my mother didn't seem surprised. I told you, she said quietly. I told you there was something about that girl. My father was more pragmatic. We need to speak with her family. This is not something we can handle alone. Amara's parents arrived the next day. The meeting was tense, hostile. Her father, a quiet man with ancient eyes, listened to my accusations without expression. When I finished, he turned to Amara. You told him? He found out, she whispered. Her father nodded slowly. Then it is time for the full truth. What he revealed changed everything. Amara's grandmother had not simply been a medicine woman. She'd been the keeper of an ancestral covenant, a pact made generations ago between their family and certain spiritual entities. In exchange for protection and prosperity, the women of the family were required to maintain specific rituals. The red scarf was not just a tool, it was a seal. It bound Amara to the covenant, marked her as the current keeper of the family's power. And the food rituals? They weren't just for my protection. They're for hers, Saz, her father explained. The covenant demands that she serve her husband food prepared with the scarf and the rituals. If she fails to do this, If she breaks the tradition, the protection is withdrawn, not just from you, but from her, from all of us. What kind of protection? I asked. Her mother spoke for the first time, her voice barely above a whisper. Protection from them. The ones we made the pact with. The ones who gave us power in exchange for service. A chill ran down my spine. And if the pact is broken? No one answered. They didn't need to. The fear in their eyes told me everything. I looked at Amara, really looked at her. She sat hunched on the sofa, the red scarf now off her head, clutched in her trembling hands. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. Did you know all of this when you married me? I asked quietly. She nodded. I thought I could do it without you ever knowing. I thought I could protect you and fulfill the covenant and we could just be happy. I didn't know it would affect you this way. I didn't know you'd feel it. You should have told me. Would you have married me if I had? I wanted to say yes, but we both knew that would be a lie. Like and subscribe for the stunning conclusion. My parents wanted me to divorce Amara immediately. They called in a pastor who prayed over me and declared that I needed deliverance from evil spirits. They brought in a traditional priest who performed cleansing rituals and gave me protective amulets to wear. But through it all, I kept thinking about Amara, about the woman I'd fallen in love with who existed somewhere beneath all these secrets and ancient pacts. I made a decision that shocked everyone. I asked Amara's father to teach me about the covenant. If my wife was bound to it, if this was truly part of who she was, then I needed to understand it. I needed to know what we were dealing with. Over the next 3 months, I learned things that challenged everything I thought I knew about reality. I learned about the thin places between our world and others, about entities that existed in those spaces, about the pacts and bargains that humans had made with them throughout history. I learned that Amara's family had been bound to these entities for 7 generations, each firstborn daughter carrying the responsibility, each one wearing the red scarf as a symbol of her covenant. I learned that the power was real, the healing, the protection, the blessings, but so was the price. Those who tried to break free from the covenant had suffered terrible fates: illness, madness, death. And I learned that Amara had tried to refuse the mantle when her grandmother died. She'd wanted a normal life, wanted to escape the burden, but the consequences had been swift and severe. Her younger sister had fallen mysteriously ill. Her father's business had collapsed overnight. Accidents and misfortunes had plagued the family until Amara finally accepted the scarf and took up the rituals. She did it to save us, her mother told me one evening. She sacrificed her chance at a normal life because she loves her family. And now she's trapped, I said. We're all trapped. The covenant doesn't break, it only passes on. That night, I went home and found Amara in our bedroom, staring out the window. The red scarf lay on the dresser, looking innocent in the moonlight. I'm sorry, she said without turning around. I'm sorry for all of this. If you want to divorce me, I'll understand. You didn't sign up for any of this. I sat down beside her. Tell me something. If you could be free of this, if there was a way to break the covenant without consequences, would you? She finally looked at me, her eyes full of unshed tears. In a heartbeat, but there is no way. We've searched for generations. The pact is absolute. What if we could modify it? Find a compromise? What do you mean? I'd been thinking about this for weeks, ever since learning the full truth. The covenant demands that you perform the rituals, that you serve food prepared with the scarf, but does it specify that I have to eat that food unknowingly? Does it require deception? She frowned. I I don't know. The tradition has always been to do it in secret. But is that part of the actual covenant or just how it's been practiced? Over the next week, we consulted with her father, pored over old family records, spoke with distant relatives who knew fragments of the covenant's terms, and we discovered something remarkable. The covenant required service, ritual, and offering. It required that the keeper wear the scarf and prepare food with specific prayers and ingredients. But nowhere in the actual terms of the pact did it demand secrecy or deception. That had been added by the women themselves centuries ago because they feared their husbands would reject them if they knew the truth. Armed with this knowledge, Amara and I made a new agreement. She would continue the rituals. We had no choice about that. The consequences of breaking the covenant were too severe, but she would do it openly, with my full knowledge and consent. Every morning she would wake up, tie the red scarf around her head, and prepare breakfast using the traditional methods. But instead of hiding it, she would explain each step to me. The prayers were for protection and blessing. The herbs and roots were for health and vitality. The rituals were generations old, passed down through her family, and I would eat the food knowing exactly what it contained and why. The first morning we tried this new approach, I woke to find Amara already in the kitchen. But this time the door was open. She stood at the stove, the red scarf on her head, and when she saw me, she smiled. "Good morning," she said. "I'm making protection soup. The basil is for clarity, the ginger for strength, and the pepper for courage." I walked over and kissed her forehead. "What are the prayers for today?" "Protection from accidents, wisdom in business decisions, and harmony in our home." "That sounds good. Can I help?" She handed me a spoon. "Stir clockwise while I add the final ingredients. It helps blend the energies." It felt surreal, standing in my kitchen at 6 a.m., stirring soup while my wife chanted in an ancient language, a red scarf on her head. But it also felt honest, real, like we were finally being truly married. No secrets, no deception, just two people navigating a complicated situation together. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The change in Amara was remarkable. Without the burden of secrecy, she blossomed. She was lighter, happier, more herself. She still performed the rituals every morning, that was non-negotiable, but now they were part of our routine together rather than something she did in the shadows. I stopped feeling drained. Amara explained that my exhaustion had come from the conflict between the spiritual energy she was putting into the food and my unconscious resistance to it. Now that I accepted it willingly, the energy flowed naturally. Did I fully understand it? No. Did I believe in it the way Amara did? I'm still not sure, but I couldn't deny the results. My business thrived, I stayed healthy, our marriage grew stronger, my parents eventually came around, though my mother still gave Amara suspicious looks whenever she wore the red scarf. My friends thought I was crazy when I told them, carefully, without revealing too much, that my wife practiced traditional medicine. But here's what I learned through all of this. Every marriage has its secrets, its challenges, its compromises. Amara's were just more visible, more unusual than most. A year after the revelation, Amara came to me with news. She was pregnant. "If it's a girl," she said softly, "she'll inherit the covenant. She'll become the next keeper when I'm gone. And if it's a boy, then the responsibility passes to my sister's daughter or to the next girl born in the family." I put my hand on her belly, feeling the life growing inside. "Whatever happens, we'll face it together. No secrets this time. We'll tell our daughter the truth from the beginning, let her grow up understanding what she is." Amara's eyes filled with tears. "You'd do that? Accept that your daughter might have to carry this burden?" "I accepted it when I stayed with you. We're in this together now. All of us." 9 months later, we had a daughter. We named her Ada after Amara's grandmother. She's 3 years old now and already showing signs of the gift. She sees things others don't, knows things she shouldn't know. And yes, there's a small red scarf waiting for when she's old enough to understand. Every morning, I still wake up to find Amara in the kitchen, the red scarf on her head, preparing our breakfast with prayers and rituals that connect us to something ancient and powerful. Ada sometimes toddles in to watch, fascinated by the chanting, by the way her mother's hands move with practiced precision. "Mama's scarf," she says, pointing. "Yes, baby," Amara replies. "One day, if you choose to accept it, you'll have your own scarf. But that's a long time from now." People ask me sometimes if I regret marrying Amara, if I wish I'd listened to my mother's warnings. The answer is complicated. Do I wish my life was simpler? Sometimes, yes. Do I wish my wife came without ancient covenants and spiritual obligations? Occasionally. But do I regret choosing Amara? Never. Because beneath the rituals and the red scarf and the ancient pact, she's still the woman I fell in love with. She's brilliant and kind, strong and gentle. She's an amazing mother to our daughter. And she loves me enough to have been willing to let me go when the truth came out, The red scarf is just one part of who she is. It doesn't define her any more than my career defines me or our daughter's eventual gifts will define her. We've built something here, a marriage that honors both the modern world we live in and the ancient traditions that shaped Amara. It's not always easy. There are still mornings when I question everything, when I wonder if I'm crazy for accepting all of this. But then, I'll take that first bite of breakfast, prepared with love and blessings and generations of accumulated wisdom, and I'll look across the table at my wife with her red scarf and our daughter with her bright eyes, and I'll think, this is my family. Strange as it may be, powerful as it is, this is exactly where I belong. Last week, a colleague asked me the secret to a happy marriage. I smiled and said, communication, respect, and accepting your partner for who they really are. I didn't mention the red scarf. I didn't mention the ancient covenant or the morning rituals or the protection prayers. Some truths are too complicated to explain to outsiders. But I'll tell you the real secret, the thing I've learned through all of this. Love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone whose imperfections, whose complications, whose mysterious depths you're willing to explore and accept. My wife ties a red scarf around her head every morning before serving me food. She chants in an ancient language, adds herbs and roots that connect us to powers I don't fully understand, and serves it all with a smile. And I eat it gratefully, knowing that every bite carries her love, her protection, and her promise to keep our family safe. Is it strange? Absolutely. Is it traditional? In ways most people can't imagine. Is it right for everyone? Definitely not. But is it right for us? Every single morning I wake up and choose yes. That's the story of my wife and her red scarf. It's not the ending I expected when I first noticed her strange behavior, but it's the one I've come to cherish. Some mysteries, I've learned, are meant to be lived with rather than solved, and some traditions, no matter how unusual, are worth preserving if they come from a place of love. Thank you for reading. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe for more incredible tales. What would you do if you discovered your partner had an ancient secret? Let me know in the comments below.